start, just to get us warmed up, I'd like you to either put in chat or just say out loud, unmute yourself. I think we can just have some, free shout outs on how do you define a healthy workplace climate? Or maybe there's just some adjective that describes a climate that seems to be healthy. So it could be an adjective, it could be a statement or a phrase, but I'd like to see what people would think about when you think about a healthy workplace climate. So I'll wait a few minutes to see anything come in chat, or hopefully some of you are willing to blurt out. Oh, there's lots of stuff coming. Relaxed, comfortable, people feel empowered, collegial, lack of tension, transparent, positive, not intimidating, productive, cooperative, people supporting each other. I like that one. Collaborative, everyone feels supported. Great. That's a great start. I think that's how we do think of workplace climate. I think we have policies even that kind of point to that without using the terms climate, but they might, like policy, I'm going to forget the 151, right? Code of conduct, those kinds of things talk about respect, all of the things that kind of encompass how we want to feel and how we want to be treated when we come to work, and hopefully how we want to treat others as well, because it's kind of a two-way street. So thanks for doing that. We'll go on to the next slide here. So here's a definition that may or may not be helpful. I find it somewhat helpful. So climate is a measure of the real or perceived quality of interpersonal, academic, and professional interactions on a campus, and consists of the current attitudes, behaviors, and standards of faculty, staff, administrators, and students concerning the level of respect for individual needs, abilities, and potential. So what that makes me think of right away is, well, okay, well, that makes sense, but how do we measure it? If we're talking about perceptions, it feels hard to measure. If we even think about respect, how do we sort of define respect? And some of the facilitated conversations I've had over the past years, a lot of times groups have spent a lot of energy defining what is respect. And you start to find out that within even a small department, there might be very different needs around respect. Some people might have more concerns, some people might have fewer concerns, and certainly people will have different concerns of what's respectful and what's not. In the second paragraph on this slide by the University of California on diversity, they say a healthy climate is grounded in, which is nurtured by dialogue between those of differing perspectives and evidenced by a pattern of civil interaction among community members. I like this definition a lot, because I think in order to have respect, we need to be able to talk about our differences. And I think now more than ever, this is a hard thing to do. It's not impossible. And it may be that it seems harder than it really is. I'm not sure. They go on to say campus climate includes the experience of individuals and groups on a campus, and the quality and the extent of the interaction between those various groups and individuals. So it's not just about how you or I feel individually, but it's also about how we interact with one another. Diversity is one aspect of campus climate. Diversity and inclusion efforts are not complete unless they also address the broader climate. So pretty good definitions to start out with. So this slide talks about what a positive climate might look like. A positive climate we usually think of as a place that's inclusive, The workplace is one where the human rights principles of fairness, respect, equality, dignity, and autonomy are promoted and are part of the everyday goals and behaviors. I mean, some of you might be rolling your eyes right now because maybe you feel like where you work, that's not happening every day. It's not a goal every day. It's not the behavior that you're seeing every day. And honestly, some days I don't always feel, if I'm having a bad day, I'm not more as aware of my ability to give respect than I am on days where I'm feeling, imbalance and in a good spot for myself. So it's not just them that aren't behaving in this way. It can also be us. So organizational climate really refers to meaningful interpretations of the work environment by the people in it. So we get to determine whether or not this is a positive or a healthy workplace climate, or a climate that we can thrive in, both mentally and emotionally, as well as professionally. So the dimensions of organizational climate, and I do have a page with the references for later if you're wondering where this all comes from. There are 6 of them around climate and change. And a lot of people put climate and change together because change is one of those big things that can really rock climate. And so they're oftentimes tied together. But just to briefly think about the dimensions of workplace climate. One is clarity. In your work department or your office, or I know some of you are coming from different places. Is there clarity? Are the rules clear? Are there too many unwritten rules where you don't have that kind of clarity? Are there certain standards that are both transparent or hidden? Or are there maybe standards lacking? I know I've run across areas on campus where minimal standards are preferred, which can be useful for some areas, but also can lead to inequity in how standards are applied. Responsibility is another one. Do people take responsibility? Do they share responsibility? Is the workplace flexible? Is there flexibility built in? And that can mean a lot of different things. But is flexibility equitably applied? I mean, people who come to my office oftentimes will feel like flexibility is offered to some and not others, as an example. How about rewards? Are rewards and recognition given for work done, or are they given for reasons that call equity into place again, such as, or equality? People who are in the in-group get rewarded and recognized, but people who aren't don't. And is there team commitment? Do you see yourself as an island among other islands within your department, or do you buy into a team commitment that we're all in this for the greater good? I mean, the university asks us to, we serve students as our primary constituency that we serve, and we're a land grant institution. So that's one way of thinking about our team commitment. But there's a way to have team commitment also at the college level, at the departmental level, and other offices on campus. So it's a way to think about all of the things that go into campus climate, and it's fairly complex if you think about it. A few questions that you might want to ask yourself, are in the place where you work, are the relationships warm and caring? Are people treated fairly, especially in terms of rewards and recognition for work done? Do people take pride in their work? Whether you're primarily teaching research and service, or you're primarily service and other task oriented, are people around you taking pride in their work? And are standards seen as fair and just? So in order to kind of take a look at and take the temperature of your own workplace climate, we're going to use that worksheet that's in the chat that Jess mentioned. And we're going to kind of rate this for ourselves. So I'm going to give you some time to do that. I'm going to pull it up here so it's on the screen and just show you what from the screen. So you'll notice that there is, in the green is vibrant units right here. I think you can see my cursor, but I'm not sure. Oopsies, took it off. Don't click the button. Okay, vibrant units in the green, and you'll put a 0 to 5 based on, that's kind of your Likert scale there. So if it's respectful dealings among colleagues in my department, if I think there's 0, I'd say 0. I think minimal 1, 2, something like that. I think it's all the time great. I would say 5, right? And you'll go all the way down the green column, and then you'll total, and then you'll go into the yellow zone, which is warning signs. That's 0 to 3. Same kind of thing. Complaints are disproportionate to other units on campus. 0 would be not at all. 3 would be yes, there are. And then red is the challenged units from 0 to 5. Serious misconduct, discrimination, sexual happens in my unit. 0, never, or 5, frequently or always. So go ahead and take that, take the scores. Even if you don't want to print it out, you can just look at the PowerPoint slide and write on a piece of paper under green, you know, put your numbers under yellow, you know, create your own little grid. So go ahead and do that, and I'll watch and wait for you to finish. If you're okay, I think I'm going to assume that most of you are almost done, and Jess is going to put you into small groups, and we are going to put into a chat a set of questions for you to answer in your small groups. You'll have 15 minutes to talk about that. Did I send that to you, Jess, the questions? Okay, thanks.
You did. It's going to take me just a minute to get there.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'll let people finish up a little more too. So just while she's doing that, I'm just going to let you know that so what you're going to do before you end is subtract yellow plus red. So you're going to add yellow plus red and subtract it from green. And that's how you're going to kind of find your total score. So subtract the scores in yellow plus red from the green. And then when you get into groups, basically, you're going to talk about your reactions and using the audit tool. You're going to talk about whether or not this would work in the places that you've worked and why or why not. So let's say your whole unit decided to take this survey as a way to get a finger on the climate. To name something you've experienced that improved the climate or relationships or productivity in the workplace that you are in. And then to name one thing that, despite good intentions, just hasn't worked to improve climate, or maybe has harmed the climate in some way. So those will be in the chat for you when you go into small groups. And if you might want to cut it, copy it and then paste it into when you get into small groups, because I know sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't follow you into the small group. Anything further, Jess, that I should say there?
No, I don't think so. You know, you can always hit the call button too if you need something, and I can come in and give the questions too.
Okay, great. And here we go.
All right.
Okay, I hope you had some good discussions and were able to think about a few of those things. What I'd like to do as you come back is to name in chat. Anyone can, it doesn't matter if both people in or all 3 people in the group do it or not, but just put in with the questions 3 and 4. So just name one thing that has worked to improve the climate, relationships, etc. And then one that did not, if you have that one. So let's just kind of fill chat in with that for a short minute. Oopsies. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding the chat. Okay. So listening, one-on-one communication with students, small group discussions, having respectful conversations, flipping the department meeting, faculty talk, I listen has worked. That's great advice. Anything else anyone wants to add? Anything that has been tried that you feel wasn't, oh, here's a didn't work. That's good. Didn't work, being helpful and available, and then being taken advantage of. Yeah. Asking for feedback can sometimes be a negative. What didn't work, coworkers who said they wanted to support an overwhelmed colleague but actually were becoming more resentful and didn't tell the supervisor. Yeah. So we kind of know intuitively and otherwise, I think, what works and doesn't work in a lot of these situations. And it's sometimes we don't have a lot of control over it, which makes it all the harder. So let's see, I'm going to turn my slideshow back on and get to the next slide. So this tool can be used for kind of taking the temperature of the department. How do we see our professional home? You know, are we improving or getting worse? What are the priorities and the trade-offs among those concerns? All good questions to kind of ask. How does the internal perspective within the unit align or not with the external perception of the unit? So in my role, and I think other people in administration at dean's level can see sometimes that the internal perspective sometimes could be fairly negative, while the external perception doesn't look that bad, because you know, people don't always know what's really going on beneath the surface. Which of the issues addressed in the chart are susceptible to primarily administrative interventions? So which issues really need that sort of top-down support, and what require basically more of a larger discussion about institutional culture and shared responsibility? Or you could even say departmental. So there's sometimes
Sorry to interrupt you, Christine. Are you hoping to show us slides while you're speaking?
Yeah, are you not seeing it?
No, sorry.
Oh gosh, yeah, well, okay. Let me see if I can figure this out.
Okay.
And Joe, did maybe somehow I lost the share screen, I bet. There we go. Now do you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks for letting me know. I had no idea. Okay. These are the things I was looking at. And one more. What would success look like short-term and long-term? So another set of good questions for really taking the temperature and addressing some of these issues. And this really can be done. I mean, the third question up here kind of begs itself to inviting people at a higher level. And I think I see that level of intervention happen more when there's maybe a fairly toxic environment and it's more difficult for people to deal with it on their own, because maybe they're fearful, maybe there's things that happen that will keep people from speaking out, that kind of thing. There are three basic themes to this approach. One, it assumes that early indicators of trouble are usually indirect. They may, like changing enrollment patterns, which we're seeing now and for the last year or two, and I guess going into the future. Are there fewer faculty around during the day, or as research and other productivity reduced? sorry. There we go. Some of these indicators are viewed differently and experienced differently from different perspectives. So administrators will have a different perspective and viewpoint from faculty, or junior faculty might feel differently than faculty. Males and females may see differences, as well as people of color, even staff. I often would say, if you really want to know what the departmental climate are, ask the administrative team in any given department, because they're sort of the front point and they know what's coming and going, and oftentimes don't say much about it, but they can often have a important perspective. Using this tool for assessment isn't a single point in time. These factors described reflect trends and degrees of intensity. We know, like, if you think of a point in time where maybe you start using this kind of tool, it doesn't erase the fact that something's happened before. And to assess down the road will give you a better sense of how things are moving and changing. You know, in some ways, a administrator chair could do this on their own, asking for information and then retesting it again further on, just to maintain a healthy climate. It doesn't necessarily have to be used only when the climate's really poor, but to maintain a healthy climate, or shift small things that could lead to a more difficult climate experience. So how do we stay in the green? In terms of the academic side, asking questions about, you know, have you lost your way? That decline in productivity, curriculum. I've done strategic planning with some departments whose curriculum really is needed to change and been slow to change for lots of reasons. Time is certainly a huge factor there. Are there common purpose and direction? Good practices for recruitment and retention? Culturally, are there cultural and interpersonal dysfunctions? Is there a lot of cultural miscommunication? Priorities or personal conflicts, are they happening? Can people have honest, open discussions, or are there too many complaints and grievances? Another way to think about that. On the interpersonal side, is out of line conduct rewarded or uncurbed? You know, I see a skewed number of people in the university, because people who are frustrated and really need some help come to me, and a ton of the rest don't come to me until they need to. But what I do see is that out of line conduct is rewarded and uncurbed regularly. We don't know what to do with out of line conduct, whether it's just disrespectful, abrupt, or even bullying. So we're not very good at giving feedback early and often that can help to curb that. And we're too good of bystanders sometimes, and we see people treated disrespectfully and we don't step up. Another aspect is leadership. The role of chairing a department can be the most difficult and important on campus. You're the lowest level, first level of kind of for people to deal with issues and to get responses early. You're kind of the first line of defense in some ways. But if leaders don't have these skills, it can make the problems worse sometimes, or even undermine good efforts to resolve conflicts. Even having succession or transition plans in your department, you know, some departments do, some don't. Some you have to change every 3 to 4 years. Some chairs' heads stay there forever. But knowing some of those things can help with climate also. And externally, for some parts of campus, external constituencies can undermine the department's vibrancy and success. In other areas, you wish they were more involved to support the unit. So in times where things seem more political than ever, it's going to be difficult for departments to maintain a healthy climate if they're getting a lot of pressure to, along politics, for example, with external constituency. So now I'm just interested in getting some of your thoughts. I'm not going to type them here, but I'm going to ask you to either speak or type again, and just get a sense of what can your faculty and staff do to improve the climate? What's one thing you wish? I mean, it could be you could be speaking for yourself. I'm going to do this to try to improve my climate, but what also would you like your colleagues to do to improve climate? So if you were to make a list and then show it at the next faculty meeting, I dare you, and say, here's some things we could do to improve the climate. Let's see what you'd say in the chat. I really like getting these ideas because I think we all know what needs to be done, and you don't need, necessarily somebody outside to tell you. We are experts in this because we know when the climate's good, when it's bad, and what we need to have a healthy climate. So I'm going to start reading a few of these. I hope you keep adding ideas. Social gatherings, I hear that a lot, especially when I'm facilitating in different departments, that we've missed that. And when we don't feel connected, it's easier to be rude or short with people because we lack that connection. Having more regular meetings. Yes, I agree. Some people hate the meetings, but without it and without sharing, you don't get feedback. You don't even get recognition. You don't feel like you're part of a whole or something more. And also to have fun events. But also having people share, not just what did I do or what's on my to-do list. Not expecting that it's only my role as chair to establish healthy climate. Absolutely. Every single person in a workplace is responsible for the climate. One person, as many of you know, can make or break a good climate, right? More so break. Consider more collaboration, doing things more together, having discussions around research together, just doing more things together, right? Getting more minds together, reaching out, checking in when you're not sure if someone's doing okay. Really good list. Appreciate that. So in the little second box, it says culture isn't magic. It's about tuning into a series of small moments that send powerful signals that you are safe. We share risk here. We're headed in this direction. I think sometimes that's easier said than done. I think I was working with a unit a few years back, and I found a YouTube on psychological safety in the workplace, and it was really eye-opening to me. It's once again, a lot of the stuff are things that we kind of know, we've learned it along the way, but there was some surprising things about that, about what it takes for people to feel safe. And it takes things like people being open to listening to new ideas, not being openly criticized. It's not that you don't want to be giving constructive criticism, but for people saying things like, oh, what a stupid idea, makes it feel psychologically unsafe. And same with sharing risk. if you're belittled or if you are somehow punished for risking whatever it is, you're less likely to share, you're less likely to be vulnerable. And risk requires vulnerability. So let's see. Here is a list of resources that this came from. That 6 culture things, that little round diagram, I can't remember what it's called, comes from the National Center for Professional Research Ethics at the University of Illinois, Urbana. And a little bit about my office, but I think I'm going to end show for a minute and then see if you have any questions. Any questions or comments from anybody? Chat or live? Oh, there's another one added: celebrate, acknowledge announcements and achievements. I think almost every academic unit I've ever worked in, people talk about the lack of that. Just acknowledgement of accomplishments. In some areas, people are just by field more competitive than others. And those are the areas where they're less likely to celebrate their colleagues' achievements. But the chair can also do a lot to make sure that those achievements are being celebrated. And some places they'll create a kind of monthly email where they say, let me know. So it's everyone's doing it. Let me know if there's anything I should be aware of that the department can celebrate. And that also helps your alumni know what's going on in your department. And so you don't feel like you're tooting your own horn. It's going privately to the chair and then being put out there. The only hard thing is if, you know, Jess is the only one who's doing it in her department. So it looks like she's doing all the good work and nobody else is. So everyone kind of has to buy into that. But it's so important for us to feel recognized, to be seen for the work we're doing. And so it's an easy thing to do.
I think Jennifer had a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was curious, with the audit tool, have any units used it successfully to your knowledge, or tried it, been using it over time, or?
I'm not aware if they have. I did do a similar session for chairs, heads, deans group, and I'm not sure if any of them used it. I did get some feedback that they thought it was a really interesting tool to use, but I don't know if they actually used it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't used it when I've gone in to do work with departments with climate issues yet. I came across it probably a year and a half ago. But there's a resource that online that you can get online, and it walks all through the theory behind it and a lot more in depth in how to use the tool. I would use it myself.
Yeah, I mean, they're big questions, but it, you know, it makes the issues clear. So
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else? What does this mean? This means you get 4 minutes back. That's what we say nowadays when we get done early, right? I never get done early. I'm shocked, actually.
I did have
Could've
one more
given you-
question. Sorry, everyone. If you want to hop off, feel free. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
is
sure.
there kind of a benchmark for what's considered a score that indicates a healthy climate, or is it more like a measure it against yourself over time?
I think it's more the measure it against yourself over time. I mean, obviously you want to see better scores in the green than the other two, but it's really meant to be kind of a warning sign. What do we need to do to improve? And the green does give some suggestions in a way. And then to really get down to the brass tacks of how to keep us out of the red altogether and have responses that limit that kind of behavior as much as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, I thank you for attending, and I thanks Jess so much for, she literally created that Google Doc because we weren't sure how to get it to you all. So I really appreciate all your work with this and setting up and handling the small groups for me.
Of course, thank you. This is really wonderful. A great way to start off academic leaders this year. So thank you, Christine. And thanks everybody for coming. If you have ideas of other things, of topics that you would like to see this year, we're trying to have one of these every month. So please do reach out to me over email. I'm happy to take any suggestions that you need. All right. Don't get too wet out in that rain. We'll see you next time maybe. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.